Hello, and welcome to our panel. My name is Douglas Holloway, and you're joining my son, DJ Holloway. And unfortunately, we had a bit of a mishap with my other son, Marcus Holloway, who had an emergency business trip and couldn't be able to join us here today. But needless to say, we can cover for him. So my name is Douglas Holloway, and currently I am an entrepreneur in the media business. I own two Roku channels and that are on Roku apps. One is called Urban TV, and the other is called UKW Media. Previously, I have just recently, as a matter of fact, produced an album, Thelonious Monk, Palo Alto, an award-winning album. It was has received a Japanese Grammy and also Downbeat's Historical Album of the Year. And I'm working on two feature films, producing them. One on a documentary on Thelonious Monk, and the second is a feature film biopic. Previously to that, I was president of distribution for ION Media Networks. I was president of distribution and marketing and strategic partnerships for NBC television network. Also president of NBC Universal Cable Investments, and I'm one of the founders of the SyFy Channel, Nat Geo International, and Weather Plus, the first digital broadcast network. I've been in the cable and television business for the last 40 years. I'm a graduate of Columbia University with an MBA in marketing and finance, also an undergraduate in mass communications from Emerson College. My son, DJ Holloway, will introduce himself now.
Yeah. Hey, I'm DJ Holloway. I currently I'm a creative executive at Braun Media Corporation, and on the film division, where I oversee a slate of films that Braun is working on for production, development, and financing. So yeah, a little bit about me is I'm from New York, from Westchester County. I went to Syracuse University to study television, radio, and film with a minor in African American studies. And then I came out to Los Angeles back in 2017, where I started off working at a management company called Kaplan Prone, which represents writers and directors. There, I fell in love with working with writers and directors close by, but also found an interest in the pitch and development process that all writers go through in order to make a movie. And from there, I went to go work for Kenya Barris, the creator of Blackish, Grownish, Mixed-ish, and the whole Ish universe. I actually, on his side, I actually worked on the film division, where I helped basically build out Kenya's slate of films, specifically projects that were genre leaning, but that spoke to the marginalized experience. So LGBTQ, female oriented, and specifically Black oriented as well. So I spent 2 years there, 2.5 years, where I started off as assistant/coordinator for Kenya in his film division. And then I actually rose up to creative executive, where I was overseeing Kenya's entire slate of films. And from there, I left just about 7 months ago to go work at Braun, and that's where I am now. So that's just a little bit about me.
And unfortunately, my son Marcus couldn't be with us, but he currently is an ad sales planning manager at the Hallmark Channel, where he interned while he was at Syracuse University, and upon graduation, started in the ad sales division here in New York. So, DJ, what did you do to prepare you for college and to have a career in entertainment?
Yeah, really, it started off, seems very insular, but obviously growing up with you and, my interest in the entertainment industry really, obviously started with you and your career. Right. And from there, I sort of, also had a natural interest. I love movies. That was sort of a, general interest is just, taking film classes in high school and just having a natural interest in production and development and how movies were made. That's really where it came from. And it's like watching old movies like Alfred's Got the Birds and Casablanca, Citizen Kane, sort of the classic film nerd school stuff. And, from there, it sort of developed into, okay, how can I actually work in this industry? What can I do to make sure that I have a successful career and actually get to make movies, right? The biggest thing is making movies a friggin' miracle. And so how am I able to do that? And I really, met with a lot of people. I networked, but also did internships. So, I really knew I wanted to get into film or television in high school. And my interest was going to a school that had a robust program, right? And so that was where the option to, there's a couple of schools, Emerson was one of them, but I decided to go to Syracuse. So that had, in my opinion, a really well-rounded out program that, was able to give students the experience of what it's like to work in the industry and the business. So you were able to learn the arts and the craft of how to write a script and how to develop, but also the business aspect. And that two-hander was really important for sort of my well-rounded out education, while also having a liberal arts education, which is important. Not just only learning film. And so from there, when I was in college, it was a lot of doing internships, and I did this program called the Emma Bowen Foundation, where I worked for NBC News for 3 summers. I had absolutely no interest in working in the news space, but I knew I would, NBC Universal is a massive corporation. And it was, and there's a lot of times where I have conversations with you about, being able, figuring out how I could leverage what I was doing into something that I was actually interested in doing. And so, while I was in the building and having access to all these incredible people at NBC, I spoke to a lot of executives and told them that I wanted to work in development, and they were like, move to LA. And so from there, when I decided to graduate, when I graduated college, it was really making that decision. And also when I was at Syracuse, I did a semester in Los Angeles to really, dip my toes in without doing the full commitment of living there. And that was an awesome experience as well. Understanding what it's like to be an assistant, understanding who the players are, understanding how to do a phone sheet, understanding how to, do emails, which sounds super basic, but is a really kind of important skill to have, understanding the phone sheet, how to roll calls. And so working, I worked at Imagine Entertainment as an intern on the TV side, where I oversaw, and helped out with development there. And then also worked at E! News, working on like the film news side, which was really fascinating. Really the big thing preparing was just meeting with folks. It was networking. It was showing interest and investing in the future for when I was going to graduate, and acting as if I was going to, start day one when I was in school. So yeah, it was all about, in the grand scheme of things, it was all about just making those early on connections and having people know who you are.
So with full disclosure, one of the things that DJ Marcus were exposed to early on is for the past 20 years, I've been a trustee of Emerson College, where I graduated with a degree in mass communications and really kind of kicked off my television career. And I'm currently now not only a trustee, but also vice chairman of Emerson College. And, one of the things that a mentor of mine, a man by the name who's now not with us anymore, Nate Garner, who mentored me early in my career, and he had 3 sons, and he used to tell me, Doug, you need to stay around the entertainment business or the television business long enough so that in case your sons want to go into the business, that you can lend a hand. And so I was kind of determined to stay as a player in the business until my sons made a decision in terms of their career moves as to whether or not I need to give them a hand. And so fortunately, both of them decided they wanted to go into the entertainment business. And rather than retire and fade into the sunset, I have stayed engaged, very heavily engaged. Now, as I said, owning two television services on Roku. So, as a matter of fact, Nate showed me the way because all three of his sons eventually ended up in the television business. One is still in the business, Mark Gardner, who's an executive vice president with A&E Networks. So DJ, what was it about the exposure? Because one of the things that I know I used to do with you and Marcus was bringing you into my offices. There's a particular, a couple of particular memories I have. One, you did a project. I guess you were in high school, and you wanted to do a book report. And I kind of corralled the Lester Holt weekend news set for you and some friends, and you came into the studio and did a TV show. And another,
that was hilarious.
when I was president of distribution at NBC Broadcasting, and you and Marcus came into the office. I think it was bring your kid to work day or whatever. And I left you with my assistant, and I went off to a meeting, and I came back, and in those days I was in 30 Rock, and my name was on a plate outside of my office, and I had this huge office with 180 degrees of Manhattan on the 45th floor, and I came back, and you had put a sheet of paper over.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I actually forgot about that. That's hilarious.
And put your name on my nameplate, and you were sitting behind my desk with your feet up on the desk. And when I walked in, you said, "Go get you some coffee." I said, "Oh boy, I'm in trouble now." But I think
you totally forgot about that. That's hilarious.
You got the bug. Yeah, I had a big laugh.
Classic.
I still, tell people that story. But what was it that really kind of orientated you to film more than television? Because most of the experience that you had with me was, in television studios, and business of television, but you decided to go off into the creative side of the film industry.
So there's a couple of things, funny enough. One, I've always loved film. I think, from, learning what you were doing, I think I quickly realized I didn't want to do the business of it. I think, I really love the creative aspect, and that was it. It was telling stories, right? I think that's, my obsession with, Legos and, just, telling stories and making up worlds. That's something I've always loved doing. And so it was trying to figure out how, but also what I realized in college was I didn't like to really necessarily write. And it was like trying to figure out, okay, how can I be in the business? How can I help tell stories without me actually having to do all that heavy lifting? But also like bring stories that I really resonate with me to life. And so it's a few things. So, one is just a natural interest in film specifically. I think, there's more of a.
We did see a lot of films when you were growing up.
Yeah, we did see a lot of films, and I remember going to the world premiere to see King Kong with you and all that stuff. And movies were always a big deal. I would never, I remember always like having a phone sheet of friends that we'd call to like go see movies with us, and that was a big part of like our family, what we did. So it was just a natural interest of like film and also like the art aspect of film, which very much attracted me. I think, there is a focus and a concentration to film where you're working with one or two writers and one director on one project. For me, like where that is a lot easier to track and understand how to build than trying to think about an entire TV series or multiple TV series. So the focus aspect of film is something that is something that I really enjoy and appreciate. And the fact that it's like you make a film and then that's a story. That's it. Another thing was just from my first experience in TV, which I absolutely hated. It was my temp experience at UCP. And, I don't know necessarily who's going out to, but, people should know, like it was miserable. It was a terrible experience. People I worked with were complete assholes, and it was working on a massive slate of like 200 projects. And for me, what I witnessed was just the focus on the art, and the writers wasn't, and it wasn't as creatively fulfilling as what I wanted to. And so for me, it was sort of a quick sort of like a confirmation of that I want to be in film, and that was sort of the world I want to be in. And so that was sort of a two-hander. It was my natural interest in film and always loving movies, but then it was sort of solidified with my first professional experience, which was in TV, which was short and sweet, thankfully.
Yeah,
but I think, but also what I will say too is it's important to know both worlds. And when working for Kenyon, working now, I've been able to work on TV shows and help develop TV shows, and that's something I'd be down to do. But that being said, it's focusing strictly on TV was just never my interest. I'd rather be kind of film leaning with, understanding of TV, and also having the TV language too, because they are similar, but they're also very different. And when it comes to TV, it's you're making a TV show that's going to a network, distribution that's kind of solidified. And with film, there's a slew of ways you can make a movie and release a movie. It's not just either on your TV screen streamers or broadcast or cable. It's a little bit more of a Wild West, and that aspect is really exciting as well, to kind of figure that out and maneuver that.
Yeah, and now that I think about it, you did have a lot of access to movies, because we had in our household growing up, when you were growing up, every conceivable technology. We had Voodoo, right. We had cable, we had satellite, we had two different cable companies in our house at one time. We had
DirecTV and like, what is it, Cablevision or whatever that was?
Yeah, we had Cablevision, Verizon, DirecTV, and Dish. And
it's crazy.
Voodoo and some other technologies that don't even exist anymore. So
this one, was just watching something on Voodoo on the smart TV in my apartment, which is hilarious. And I was like, holy shit. I remember we got the
first Voodoos.
Yeah. Like the prototype, which is cool.
Right. Yeah, we did have the prototype. So tell us about your job today. What's a day in the life of DJ?
Yeah, I think what's great about Braun specifically, I can sort of go into what Braun operates as a company. But Braun is an in-house studio, but we also do, production. We act as production partners. So really, I think what's exciting is every day is a lot different. One day could just be filled with reading scripts and, trying to find writers and directors to do projects with. Another day could be filled with notes, having to do notes for a draft on a project that we did. So, and then another day can just be filled with calls, trying to coordinate, meetings with directors on current projects and actors, and trying to find, talent for current projects as well, or trying to find, trying to figure out the right production path for projects. So, every day is different. But what I will say, and the best part about my job is it's meeting writers and directors. I love that. Excuse my friends. Like, I love meeting with writers and directors. I love meeting with, up and coming folks, especially young folks of color, and young, quote unquote, diverse folks. Even though I hate the word diverse, that's sort of, I think, the best way to encapsulate, new people that will tell stories and trying to figure out ways to work with them. But it's also cool to meet with people that are established as well, and trying to figure out how we can make projects with them, or, make the projects that we're working on with them even better. So it's great because at, where I'm at in my position, I'm working with really, really high level people, some of the best directors in town. And then I'm meeting with people who are thinking about making their first short film or writing their first script. Right. And I think that's really the most fruitful part of this job is meeting with a lot of, really incredible people. But yeah, it's just giving insight. That's really a lot what my job is. It's giving insight into current projects or projects that we could potentially take on and bring to the forefront.
Which I can say you are quite talented at it as your dad. You've helped me in identifying a director for our documentary film that is going to be a feature film, which we're really excited about Monk. So I want to
waiting
thank
for
you
that.
for
I'm waiting for that check.
that.
But yeah, that was awesome. I
I
mean,
think
that
I've
was.
already paid up
I
front.
think so too. But yeah, I mean, that's that. Doing that with you, that was awesome. That was just like, that's a big thing that I do too. Is like just like sending lists of writers and directors and trying to think about folks who would be good for projects, and that's something I'm like I love doing. And so, you hit me up, be like, "Yo, we need this type of director for this type of project." It was like I could do that with my eyes closed, frankly. And so that was really fun to do in general, but it feels even better knowing the fact that like that actually worked out. Like the fact that that list and that input actually came into something actionable, because there's a lot of things that don't come to action. There's a lot of things that kind of get dropped or something in the rug or just kind of forgotten about because it's so busy. It's a constant thing. And so the fact that that actually came to something being actually tangible and business worthy was really cool. And that's awesome that worked out. And it's someone who's freaking kick ass too. So
yeah, it's pretty exciting to be able to work with this guy. One of the things that you said earlier,
I gotta tell their agent. You gotta tell their agent. I'm friends with their agent.
That really impressed me in this conversation, but has impressed me, watching you grow and flourish in your career, is you said you love this stuff. And I think one of the things that, I've always tried to impress upon you, that you don't need to be in this business unless you really, really love it, unless you really are committed to it, because it's a really tough road. It's a really cutthroat industry, whether it's television or film. You really have to commit yourself to it. And, that's one of the things that I did myself. I really got the bug for television, I guess at the age of 4 when I was on Romper Room. And I was enamored by being in a television studio. And from that point on, I fell in love with television. And that's back when, television was black and white. And there were only 3 television channels, compared to the thousands of options you have today. But it was that love and that commitment that I've had throughout my career. And, I've been able to see that in you. And I think when you're talking to any young people today, that's really, really important, that unless they're really committed to it and really love it, that they really shouldn't be in it or find another career path.
Yeah, I got like last thing to say is like one of the best, something that's always stuck with me was, I'll never forget my first day at the Syracuse LA program was the head was like, the head of the program was like, the pilot light when you're on the stove, right? And what she said was like, make sure that pilot light is always on, like even in the worst days, even as if you're getting dogged by your boss, the project that you didn't want just completely crumbles or doesn't work out the way you want, make sure that pilot light is still on. Make sure that that thing, that ignition, that thing that kind of starts a fire is still there. And if it's not, then sort of reevaluate. And that's always really stuck with me, even some of the darkest days, is just making sure that pilot light is on and there's still some sort of ignition to that flame. I think that's something that's been, a really important guiding light, no pun intended.
Yeah, I fully agree. So what's next for you in your career?
I don't know. Well, no, I know, but there's a lot of things. I want to run a studio one day. That's ultimately what I want to do. I want to run a studio.
What's your long-term career goal?
Company. Long-term career goal is to run a studio. But that's my plan. And so, there's the classic, CE to manager to director. There's a whole slew of things, but something that I've, been told is it's not always about looking at that process and being kind of a chain snob. It's also, just setting forth like those goals. And really what's next for me and my biggest goal, and it's not even title wise, it's just make a movie. I just want to make a movie. So that's what's next for me. I'm going to make a movie. I'm going to figure out how to do that. There's a few projects that are in development or going to be in production. And it's really just being able to make a movie. That's what's next. So it's hopefully I am overseeing production on a project and having a movie be released. That's really it.
So the career path that you're pursuing as a creative executive and with the ultimate goal to run a studio or be head of a production company, what advice would you give young folks in terms of their education, coursework, internships?
Yeah, I guess this is mostly college age seminar. Yeah. Or dad, yeah.
Professional.
Yeah, I mean, college, it doesn't matter where you go. You can go to Harvard, or you can go to, community college of, bumfuck. It's really, it's making sure you cut the time and the education. It's about the learning. It's about, doing that education about the industry, understanding the lingo. It's listening to podcasts. It's reading books. It's reaching out to people. It's, whether it's you want to be a writer, director, it's, writing constantly. It's, even, putting stories together, just constantly working on that craft, whatever part of the entertainment industry it is. Early on, it's just making time to do that while also creating a network, no matter how big or small that is. That's really the most important thing right now. It's taking the time to really hone in that creative craft or that business craft, and start now. There's no better time to start. So for, folks coming out of, in college, it's listening and not even, college, but that are trying to break in. It's like listening to podcasts. The podcast I recommend is called Script Notes. It's basically with John August and Craig Mazin, and it's about, how to write stories and how executives give notes and that entire process. Reading books like Save the Cat, which analyzes story and basically gives you, the step-by-step of how to build a story. It's it's reading other books, reading other podcasts. It's listening to interviews of your favorite directors or people that you aspire to, work for or be like. And then, if you're trying to get in, it's, finding those jobs. It's reaching out to people on LinkedIn. My biggest advice to a lot of people is just like go on to movies and TV shows, look up the production companies and, people who and talent that worked on it, or people who are repped by those folks or any of that stuff, and reach out to them. Cold email. That's a big thing. I really respect when people cold email. I don't like it too much, but if people, it's not, everyone likes to talk about themselves in this industry, and it's just, starting out to create a network. And that's a really big thing, is just, educating yourself and also starting to create a network to make yourself the most successful as possible, and listening to people too.
So what do you do to network today?
I mean, for me, it's a little different, right? I've been in this industry, so a lot of it is
asking. How long have you been in the industry?
4 years, which is crazy. It's only been 4 years. It's felt like 50 years in the best way. But yeah, I still cold email people. I cold email agents and managers all the time, of people, writers or directors or talent that I'm a big fan of. It's reaching out to other executives that I could possibly do business with. Can
you tell people how to go about a cold email and what they should say and how they should?
Yeah, I mean, it's really it's a couple lines. It's going on LinkedIn or finding someone's email and saying, hey, so and so, my name is blank. I'm a big fan of your client list or what you do. I would love to know if I could steal like 5 minutes of your time to just pick your brain. That's it. And
get responses.
Oh yeah, I get them all the time. I've still gotten them, even when I was lower level, because once again, people like talking about themselves, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Honestly, it's it's at the same time, it's people giving a hand, but it feels good both ways, like giving a gift. And a lot of people will be able to give that time, because that was where everyone that you'll be in the entertainment industry was given that same chance as well. And so it's just knowing that everyone was at your place one time in your life, and that they would not be there without the help of other people. So it's just keeping that in mind too, and it's having confidence. That's another big thing, is just having confidence in yourself, belief in yourself, having confidence. to like move forward to the next level and believe that you can actually, do it, even if you don't think you can, which still happens many times.
Oh, good. Can you recommend any internships that some of the folks might want to do?
I mean, look up top agencies and management companies, reach out to them, see if they have, openings. That's really it. That's the best place to start. Work in the rep industry. That's where you'll get the most education. That's where you get the most learning. Look at, the representation business is where a lot of people get their foot in the door, and it's sort of what I like to call the grad school course of the entertainment industry. So that's my advice. Yeah.
I would also recommend people signing up for the Emma Bowen Foundation internship program, the T. Howard Foundation internship program, and also the IRTS Foundation internship program. And all of those programs, have connections to the, top entertainment companies all around the country. And no matter what your interest is, it could be accounting. There are internships in the entertainment business for accountants. There are internships for engineers. There are internships for technology people. There are internships for creative people. There are internships for people that want to be in the business side of the entertainment business. So I would recommend all of those, and all of the major entertainment companies. And as DJ mentioned, the rep firms, the agencies, they all will take on interns. And the major thing is for you to knock on those doors. And you can be in college or even out of college and looking to change careers and still either get jobs or internships. So any parting piece of advice for our listeners here today?
Just keep on pushing, work hard, and read a lot, educate yourself, and maybe working for one of you guys one day. So that's what it's all about. Just it's really, there's not really much more to it, and just stay interested and don't be a know-it-all. Be willing to learn at all times, and be respectful. Don't be too pushy, but don't be overly passive. And yeah, just believe in yourself.
Believe in yourself is very, very important. My career has taken many, many different turns, ups and downs. And, when I left Ion back in 2015, I had a project that I wanted to put together my own video service. And that began over 8 years ago. And through the past 8 years, the industry has changed a great deal. And it was through perseverance. It was through hard work. It was through having a dream and not giving up on that dream that in the past year, I've been able to launch 2 video services on Roku. And one of them is also on YouTube and one is on Amazon. So, and this was at the very tail end of my career. I'm past retirement age, but I'm still hanging in there and still living out my own dreams in the entertainment business. So as DJ said, stay in there, dream, have a long-term plan. As I've told both DJ and Marcus, my other son, someone gave me this bit of advice when I was 20 years old. I was a junior in college, and I was in my first job in the communications industry. I was a news writer for an all-news radio station in Boston, WEEI. It was an AM station owned by CBS. And the general manager was a black man. And I went to him one day and I said, could you help me with some career advice? And so I set up an appointment to meet with him. I went to his office and sat down. I said, I want to know, how did you get to where you are? And he told me his whole story. Then I said, what advice can you give me? And he told me, he said, I really can't give you any advice as to what's going to make you successful in your career. He said, what you need to do is you need to dream. Dream. Dream where you want to be in 20 years. And now, mind you, I was 20 years old. He told me where, so I was going to, that was the entire existence of my life at that point. He said, dream where you want to be in 20 years. And so I went back, and at the time, I was studying to be a television director. I wanted to direct network television shows. And I went back and I went to my advisor, my dean, and I said, I went and got this career advice, and this guy told me, to dream where I want to be in 20 years. He said, wow, that's pretty heavy, and he said, so why don't you go ahead and dream where you want to be? So I did, and I took a couple months, and I thought about it, and I did research about, who was head of the networks, ABC, CBS, and NBC, which were the only networks in existence back in those days. And I found out that they were either lawyers, they were creatives, or they were salespeople. And so, when I really thought deep down inside of what I wanted to be in 20 years, I decided I didn't really want to direct television shows. I really wanted to run a television company. And my dream for 20 years was to be president of a television company, a major television company. And in those days, there were only three. So it was, take your shot. So it was a pipe dream at best, particularly given the fact that I was Black and there were no Black executives in television. There weren't even any Black creatives in television in those days. But I decided that I was going to pursue that dream. So I graduated and then decided to go to graduate school, Columbia, and got an MBA in marketing and finance. And my career goal was to run a television company, and I was going to do it by being in the sales area. I was going to become, knowledgeable of finance, knowledgeable of production, knowledgeable of various different aspects of television, which I fortunately was able to maneuver, which was kind of unheard of. I went from marketing to finance to strategic planning, and then I ended up in distribution sales at the beginning of the cable industry for the networks, network cable television. And I ended up being part of the startup team for CBS Cable back in 1980 and 81. And for the rest of my career, I stayed in, the distribution side of management and sales. And that's how I became president of a television division. By then, there were many more television companies 20 years after I had that dream. But 20 years after I graduated from Columbia University, I got my first job as a president. I was president of distribution and marketing for USA Network. And it happened exactly 20 years. So I encourage all of you to have those dreams and believe in yourself, and it'll happen. Thank you for your time today. Thank you, DJ. Thank you, Marcus, even though you're not here. And thank you, Dolly, for putting this together for these many, many years. And I'm a big supporter of yours, as well as the Cable Museum and all the efforts that you've put in.